Do you want to start?
I'm starting
You can start. Go for it, Brittany.
Wow, chivalry isn't dead. Ladies first. Hi, everyone. Welcome to A Day in Miami podcast. Surprise, it is me, stand-up comedian Britney Brave. You're probably saying, this girl is everywhere. And you're right. I'm tired. But today is a very special episode as we are going to talk about some crucial issues, mental health and related issues. And we have Serena Mental Health here as our special guest, a clinic that I am proud to work with and support. If anybody knows mental health and the struggles around it, it is a stand-up comedian. So first things first, we have Dr. Fajardo Garcia. We have to say Garcia. We said that was...
We were told to say Garcia, special agent.
It was in her rider. It was in her contract. It was... Her husband is in the comment threads right now.
Alejandro Garcia.
Exactly. Yes. Shout out, Alex. And we also have Dr. Rivero, one of her in-house psychiatrists and physicians at Serena.
So welcome, guys, to the podcast.
Thank you.
All right, we want to start with giving an introduction to each of you, and I would start with ladies first.
Thank you. I'm Dr. Enelia Fajardo Garcia. I'm a retiree from the Department of Health, and I am very proud of introducing Serena Mental Health, Serena Salud Mental. I'm the CEO and I'm the founder. The reason for Serena is the need that we have in this community of good mental health, access to mental health. There is a big, long wait in the community. And we want to make sure that we were able to provide to the need of someone who really needs to reach out immediately. Our priority is to have a face-to-face, and then after we can accommodate our patients. But that immediate interaction is really critical. We want to know who they are, what their needs are. And most important, we want them to be heard and to know that we are here to make a difference in their lives.
Excellent. Excellent. Dr. Rivero, you want to give a little explanation on your background and your history?
Yes. Actually, I've been working in the specialty for the last 6 years. And I'm proud. I'm a part of being part of the Serena Mental Health Group. We offer mental health services to our community. As Dr. Fajardo mentioned, there's a big need of mental health, and we just want to touch these essential services that are really important as the mental health specialty.
Yeah.
Sometimes when people hear the term mental health, it's a big blanket term. Can you elaborate on what you mean by mental health issues and mental health services that you provide?
Yes, definitely the specialty. There was, sadly, I would say, a big stigmatization about the specialty to the point that the terminology had to change to, before we used to call it like psychiatrist, and then we just refer to it as mental health. So there's many conditions related to mental health, and it's everywhere. Since we can mention depression, we may mention anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorders, even an accident can create an acute stress or a PTSD. We also have the bipolar mood, mood disorders. So there's a very these conditions.
And if you're feeling isolated listening to this, I have 75% of those. No, I'm kidding.
I was going to ask something. So I see you, and I feel like you guys are in the front lines. Okay, like you're there talking to the people, knowing what the problems of the community are on a one-to-one basis. Okay, I can only imagine the stories that you hear and the conversations that you have. How do you cope with that? Like bringing all these problems onto you and all this, like you're attracting all this, like I guess negativity, or you're like absorbing it to give them positivity, to make them feel better. Do you have like a routine, or how do you manage your own mental health? Now that you're hearing everyone's problems.
I'm gonna talk about personally what I think or what mental health definitely I can absorb that negativity that sometimes patient brings to the office. It's something natural for me, especially when you hear these stories about, sadly, rapings that you don't see in the news. So it's intense. It's really tough to see or to hear what's really going on out there.
I feel like I would cry every meeting. I wouldn't be able to do what you do. You know.
I want to put a very positive comment on this. When you hear their stories and they are trusting in you, the beauty about this and the reason why you exist in what you're doing is because you know you're making a difference.
Yeah.
They give you their positive comments. They call you and they tell you how their lives are changing. Even if it is a little bit of change, a little bit of improvement, that makes a big difference because then they become involved in you. They hear what your comments were, what your guidance was, and in the back of their mind, they hold on to that. Yeah. And they start making changes in their life. Yeah. I like to, again, keep talking positive about the opportunity of mental health. And going back to what Dr. Rivero said, that there is this stigma, which is negative connotation to mental health. The fact is that all of us, every human being, none of us are exempt. We all have a story. Yeah. And even if most people around you do not know your story, it's yours and you own it.
Well, what's crazy to me is someone like Robin Williams, like even what that happened to him, like you would never in your life think that would happen, you know?
Someone that makes the world laugh. Yes. And he was, battling this incredible depression.
Same thing with, who was it, Anthony Bourdain?
Yeah, there's so many comedians and public figures. And everybody is touched by mental health. It's not, and to your point, I was going to say, I like to remove the negativity or the term negativity from it as well too. Like obviously bearing the stories of somebody who's been through sexual assault is obviously incredibly heavy, and that's a lot to absorb. But I think when it comes to issues like mental health, sexual assault, domestic violence, far too often people are focused on the problem and not the hope or the possibility for solution. And that's where that to me is the differentiation between negative and positive.
And that's what I want for everyone who's listening to us to be empowered, to be able to reach out. They are not by themselves, that there is a story, and that, yes, there is hope, there is help. Just reach out, come out of where you are. Yeah. That there are people ready to extend their hand to you to make a difference. Yeah. Just don't keep it to yourself. Talking about general, in what the context of what we start talking, mental health, we all need someone to speak to. And there are very objective people out there that have the skills to be able to help you.
That's impressive.
And that's really what I want to be able to convey. Yeah. This is not about us, we, especially in the Hispanic and many other cultures. I'm not crazy when the family or a friend says, why don't you try to get some therapy? Why don't you try to speak to someone? The first thing that we do. I'm not crazy. Yeah. And there's nothing. You are not in any way crazy.
But I'll tell you like something that I guess even happens to me. Mm-hmm. My wife will tell me, I think you should go talk to somebody. And I'll say, they're not going to tell me anything that I don't already know. Mm-hmm. Like, why am I going to talk to them? Yeah, I already know what they're going to tell me, I consider myself a person who's like, really in tune with like self-awareness and stuff like that. So it's like, yeah, but you should maybe still go talk to someone just to let it out, But, when you have someone coming into your office and just dropping everything on you, I guess it's a different environment where you see things from a different perspective, Mm-hmm. So with that being said, I want to understand, like, what are the top 3 things that you see people coming and struggling with? Like, what are people like calling the most about?
And I will defer to Dr. Rivero, but I would like to address what you just said. Because what happens there, what you just described, happens to all of us. And that is about taking personal responsibility and really to be able to do the homework. We all have homeworks to do because all of us can evolve, grow. I always say it's not okay. And that happens to me, everybody, where we do have to take personal responsibility as to the things, the natural things that we do every single day. It might not be okay by someone else. Life is about partnerships, even in our own personal lives. It's about agreements. I always call them negotiables and non-negotiables. And we all have to come to a happy medium to be able to really survive as couples or survive in an environment of a group.
That's good. But it actually made me curious. What are your negotiables and non-negotiables?
It all depends. It all depends.
I feel like this is a dating podcast all of a sudden. I'm like, wow.
And it really is. My husband and I, we have negotiables and non-negotiables.
Yeah, my wife too. She tells me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I touched a subject that really involves everyone else, all of us.
Yeah.
It really
Those
does.
boundaries, they're boundaries at the end of the day. That's
And
what it is.
it's boundaries, and it's also our culture, and it becomes our values and our beliefs.
Yeah.
All that's why it's so important. We do not think that there is a value and it is important, but it actually is. It can make or break a relationship,
100%.
even friends, our own internal, private lives, that life with our kids as well.
So I'll tell you a quick, before we get to that answer from him. So I got married like a year ago now, and I had to do the converting to Catholic, which, long story short, I had to do El Camino and go through the whole process.
Awesome.
So I had to do
Santeria.
a questionnaire.
Yeah. No, I'm kidding.
I did a questionnaire of a questionnaire with the pastor at the church, and you're supposed to submit it. And it's very personal question that they ask you.
Of course.
I go and we're supposed to have meetings with him. We go and we sit down just like this, and he's in front of me. He goes, I have never seen anyone fail a communication test as bad as you did. She goes, you guys do not have good communication. And then I'm like, well, what do you mean? We talk every day. He's like, no. The answers that you gave and she gave are so off. She goes, you need to open up yourself more, which is something that I usually I have the traditional mentality of being a macho man and listen, don't worry about it. We power through things and we keep going, So, Dr. Rivero, I wanted to ask you more in detail. You're on the front lines. What are the top 3 situations that you see people struggling with mental health the most?
Believe it or not, childhood traumas.
Wow.
Yeah. I think that's where most of the, not always, but most of the time you see the hardest part.
Wow.
Mental abuse kids, and when they grow up, imagine, you see depression, you see the post-traumatic stress disorder, so it's intense. Also, we see depression as well, and anxiety.
Anxiety? Yeah. Do you think that has a lot to do, I don't know why, I feel like it has a lot to do with social media.
I was about to say, I feel like all these mental health issues are enhanced by social media nowadays. I also feel like as if social media is a beautiful thing, but I don't think it was meant to be used the way that it's being used now, with all of us overindulging in it and spending this much time on it. And it's for me, to maintain my mental health, I go back to things that are tangible and natural and were there prior to social media, prior to me developing anxiety, the sun and the beach and quality time in person with family and friends and good food and exercise, sweat, getting a good sweat in, all of those things, because those things are pure and those things are positive and real. And I just don't think society was meant to be how it is today, with us being we're so isolated. My mom tells me that all the time. My mom checks me with my phone usage and everything. And I'm like, I don't think it was supposed to be this way. A group of friends sitting out at a bar or dinner together, but everybody's not talking and on their phones. Realistically, that's not a good balance. That's not going to be good for your inner voice and your focus, your productivity, your positivity, any of that.
And to that point, I even think that business has changed, right?
Yeah.
Obviously through social media, but what happens is everybody knows that everybody has one of these, right? So when they send you an email or a text or a call, they know that you're getting it because they know that everyone has their phone on them. And the worst part is now they follow you on social media.
Yeah.
Oh, they saw you put a post. Oh, so he's on his phone and he didn't ignore me. So it puts even more pressure. You know,
That's a really good impression of me.
yeah, so it's like,
I'm like, he didn't text me back when he watched my Instagram story. He's ignoring me.
correct.
Yeah.
And it's not
real.
that. It's
Yeah,
people have, you know, you're kind of moving all throughout the day. So it's like, a lot of times what happens to me is I thought I responded to it. So like mentally I said, okay, yeah, I'll get into it now. Left on my day, and then coño, what's up? You know, and you feel bad, but honestly, at the end of the day, you just gotta say like, fuck it, like, you know, you gotta give yourself a break.
Well, as a creative, at least, like I can speak to, you know, what I do for a living, where there's already a lot of pressure and it's not an easy industry.
Yeah.
There's no playbook or HR in entertainment, unfortunately. So you're just kind of left to hustle and use your talent. So like for me, it's created imposter syndrome and a lot of internal insecurities as a creative.
Absolutely.
And a lot of comedians, we talk about this. Like, you're not supposed to know what each one of your peers is achieving or not achieving, and how, like, and now all of a sudden everyone's playing like the comparison game.
Yep.
And that stifles your creativity, that stifles your belief in yourself as a comedian. Now you're questioning your existence. Should you be doing this? Now it's affecting your mental health. And it can, and so much of it is like, if you just unplugged a little bit and focused on yourself, but that's not the case.
So I have a question for you. If you have a creative block, right, and you're just stuck, you know, you're writing something and you just don't feel like you can get past it, what is it that you go to? What's your go-to to like release?
It's two things. So the first thing is I don't resist the feeling. I'll say that. Like, no 2 days can be the same. No two processes can be the same. No two shows can be the same. So I almost treat that like writer's block, like sadness too. Like, I feel like so many times we exacerbate our own sadness by like, I don't want to be sad, and pushing it away, and I just want to get over it. I want to feel better immediately. And I personally only think that resistance makes it worse. So you're a human being. Yes, you're an artist and you're a creator, but you're a human being. No 2 days look the same. You're not going to feel the same. So removing that shame and that guilt from, you know what, I can't think of anything funny right now. You know what, I had a bad set. You know what, I can't be creative right now. And then, yeah, to go back to what I said earlier, I think connecting with things that are real and doing things that make you human outside of what it is you do for work or outside what it is you do. Okay, I'm having a day where I don't feel funny. I had a bad set. I can't come up with something that I have to write. I just don't force it. Like, I give myself that grace. I walk away. I take my parents to lunch. I go to the beach. I see my friends. I try to do I get a workout in.
Reset yourself.
Just reset myself because, and I think that's part of that preventative mental health care too. Like, that's taking care of the part of you that's human.
Yeah. You mentioned something interesting earlier, and it was like that your parents are there and seeing you and they're getting involved, trying to assist you, right? Well, what do you guys see, or how do you, I can only assume that you guys get a lot of calls from parents that their kids may be struggling or they don't know what to do or how to do it. And what can parents do, or what do you suggest they do if they think that they have a kid that's struggling with mental health?
Oh, definitely they have to reach out, but I would like to go back to what she addressed.
Of course.
You see, what she has done and what she has described is she has in her conscious the issues that she is dealing with. This goes back to the very basic needs of every human being. Whether we are living in this very disconnected society, the fact is that we all need to be touched. We all need to have a close communication. We all need to know, to be felt. I do a lot of this, a message, a word of encouragement. Just the fact of, listen, the energy that we have right here, the communication that we have, this bonds all of us together. You go back to the Maslow's basic needs. This is what needs to happen more. And when we are disconnected, that's when we feel isolated. We are dealing with our own issues, separate, and no one knows the issues that you have because you do not verbalize it.
Yeah.
I disassociate like a pro.
That is exactly
I am
the
so
word.
good at disassociating, and sometimes it helps me decompress. Like, I need to do that after a show. I need to disassociate to an extent, like just but it can get. I also was raised as an only child, and like was always raised to be like very self-sufficient and independent. So that disassociation can go as far as to where now I'm antisocial and disconnected, and then I can see it take a toll. Yeah, so it's about finding that balance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's go back to be able to address what you had asked.
Yeah, so parents, I'm sure, struggle. Yeah, sure. Ahí está bien. I'm sure there's a lot of parents out there that struggle and they see their kids maybe struggling with mental health or some type of depression. Like, what is a parent to do, or what is the best approach they can do, or how do parents come to you and give me a little bit of that feedback on, how they approach you guys?
Not only about depression or regarding depression, as simple as, I don't want to call it simple, maybe it's not the right word to describe, but how about ADHD, which is a neurodevelopmental disorder? So ADHD is not created. When I say it's not created about with traumas or anything. It's you're born like that.
Yeah.
So that child, let's say he's during in the school, it's when they started noticing the poor concentration or the struggles regarding the condition. And
I know so many friends who have had teachers and instructors make them feel like something was wrong with them or that they were hopeless cases, when later in life they took their own mental health into their own hands and got officially diagnosed with ADD or ADHD. And they were like, wow, growing up, I was just made to feel like I was stupid or a failure or something was wrong with me, when really it's just they didn't get the right care and attention. Yeah.
I think a lot of times they try to put you in a box.
Yes.
And then it's like, you're trying to break that box and you're like, but unfortunately that's the education system. I don't know how much we can do about that. But I think people nowadays are becoming more aware. They're tapping into their creative selves. They're going to vocational schools. And even I think educators and systems that are learning that, okay, not everyone can do the same things, and you see it across the board. You see people who you would otherwise assume would be, just, not very productive people to society, and they just find their own niche and they blow up and they create new industries, I think a big problem right now is everyone wants to be like a influencer or YouTube star. Or something like that. So it's like kind of like the old school, I want to be a basketball player, I want to be a baseball player. Now it's like, I want to be an influencer. And to that point, people assume that it's easy. And it is not. It takes a very big toll on you, and it's not just like showing up and doing videos and putting them out there.
Also, at least like my opinion on the whole pursuing a career as an influencer, like, it's a very real vocation and job.
It is, 100%.
It's 100% real. It's having influence on and offline is something that people are capitalizing, monetizing on. My perspective has always been that it's like a chicken or an egg thing. I don't think you try to be an influencer. I think, for me, the best influencers or the best are people who have genuine positive influence. They don't seek to be that. Yep. They just got really good at their craft. They're making an impact in their community. They made us a physical, tangible splash and made something different that got attention. And now, as a result, they have influence. Not just somebody waking up one day and being like, my friends always go to me for bar recommendations, so I must be an influencer. Like, it's like you have to draw the line.
Yeah, I agree.
At some point, like, I'd rather have somebody making actual influence and then the social media, or having real conversations and then the social media following follows, versus people just being delulu and being like...
some of the great things that are happening is what she just did, or what we are doing here, where we're actually laughing. So people are talking about it. People are even making fun of themselves, knowing that there are issues in their lives. So that is also positive.
Do you guys ever, I know there's an old saying, men don't cry,
Men cry. People need to cry.
Do you ever have conversations with men and they just break down in front of you?
Every week.
Every week? Wow.
So do I, but for different reasons. Yeah.
Wow. And they feel comfortable opening up with you.
I think that the key in mental health, or one of the most important things,
that's the macho man syndrome.
When we have the patient in front of you, is to create that rapport with the patient, so that the patient can ventilate. Believe it or not, many patients, they just want to ventilate.
Gotcha.
They just want to, express themselves and be understood.
Yeah. I feel bad for my male friends. I mean, I have friends, male, female, however they identify, and I feel very bad, and I empathize for a lot of my male friends, because they come to me and their female friends for the kind of emotional outlet that's like completely absent in their male friend groups or their family dynamics or their workplaces and stuff. And like, they'll be like, I was so upset about this, I cried the other day. And I have to be like, they're like, oh, you know, and like they get upset about like, you know, Kendrick and Drake having a rap battle. Like that's the first reason that they cry. But like, I'm like, good. That's good. Like you don't need to feel like that's, I feel bad for a lot of them.
I hope you're not dating those men.
No, there's a reason.
Kendrick and Drake rap battles.
There's a reason they're in the friend zone. But I do feel like I feel so bad for you that you feel like as if you like this is abnormal for you to have this reaction, because I obviously grew up in female friend groups where crying is the pregame.
It's normal, yeah.
It's normal.
Yeah.
That's what you do before you go out. You cry in the bathroom stall together and you support each other. So. Yeah, but it's I don't think like society allows men the same emotional grace.
They definitely don't. And honestly, my personal point of view, although it may not be, you know, stuck to today's times, I think that you do need to have a man who can like, you know, power through, you know. I don't think men should just break down that easily, you know. That's my personal opinion.
I do disagree.
You know, I think that like you have to have some type of like, you have to cultivate some type of like understanding that things that happen, things in life don't go your way, and it's okay, you know, and you're going to power through it, and you're going to keep going, and there's going to be more problems. And I think you have to have a solution-based mindset, like level yourself. You know, it doesn't mean that you can't seek help and advice, but I think you need to be the leader in situations.
See, I super disagree. Like, I think a man is still very capable of being a leader and finding a solution, and also being a human being who was affected by something emotionally and cried. Like, he can cry, and actually, I think the release of emotions can be really cathartic and healthy, and actually clear his head so that he's able to find a solution and show up as a leader even better and even more efficiently.
I want to make a comment on that one.
Yeah.
What we are describing there, which is really unfortunately a lot in our community, you just described what we are confronting about people feeling sorry for themselves. That's really what you just described. I agree up to a point with what you said, but we are in a community that there is a very high percent of people just feeling sorry for themselves. And then they use that to their benefit.
Yeah.
And as a point of manipulation. So there's a lot in conversations. But something funny I want to tell you. In the literature, all of us, it says that 80% of every family, we all come from dysfunctional families.
Yeah, I would say so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say so. I mean, I guess like going back to what we were talking about, like my family sees me as like the man, you know?
Yeah.
So if I come in and my daughter and my family, and my siblings and everything, and I start saying, oh my God, this happened. Oh my God, that happened. And I feel like this. It's like kind of like, all right, bro, you're the man or you're not? You know, like, are you breaking down on us or what's going on? So to me, I usually will, most of the times, vent with my friends, you know, like my real close friends. And a lot of times I even say, I think you guys maybe know me more than even my own family does. But it's interesting to know, like, I've never walked into an office. I've never spoken to anybody in my life. And I always thought it would be kind of like curious to see the dynamic between me speaking to like, you know, a doctor and stuff like that, which I'm not opposed to. I think it's important. You know, I want to be clear that I think it's very important for people to go and seek help.
It's very important for the objectivity and for exactly what they do at Serena for the clinical and medical.
Huh? Oh, I'm not going to go talk to you. I can't talk to a personal person I know. I can't.
Really?
Yeah, I can't. Because I won't open up. I won't.
Oh, that's
it
hilarious.
Would need to be someone completely random like that, like lives on the other side of the world.
I will say
everything I have to say.
Most people will start a conversation with someone they know and they feel comfortable with.
I don't. I feel like I want to say someone random because if that person knows me, I feel like that information could get leaked or go somewhere else or, you know, something like that, you know.
I mean, it's to each his own, but it's like I send my best friends 13-minute voice memos and I love it. And they send 20-minute voice memos back. And I have people that I feel grateful that I have people that I can really share every shade of my feelings with, and I don't feel shame or guilt.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, it took a while to cultivate those relationships. There were a lot of people that I realized weren't real friends, but the benefit to therapy for me was always the clinical and medical expertise to literally spot things the same way a doctor would spot a brain tumor or a condition, to spot something I physically can't see in myself, and also that vulnerability of being in a room with someone you don't know. Vulnerability.
It is true. It is true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I personally don't like feeling like that.
That is,
I love it.
I don't.
we all need to be
my
vulnerable in order to connect with another human being.
Yeah.
And I still struggle with it. Like I have, this partially why I'm single. I still struggle with vulnerability in that context, but like I'm also a stand-up comedian, so it's quite literally my job to be like absolutely vulnerable
Very true.
on stage every night. And I've come to embrace it. Like, so that feeling of like, oh, this feels weird to share. I'm leaning into it. I've made a career out of it. Like,
And you're on a story of the experience in your life.
Yeah.
And it takes courage, but it is important because there are other people with some of the similar issues, and you're a role model of hope for them.
So are you.
Thank you.
Also, I want to share, and I think you would agree too, like vulnerability felt a lot more foreign to me X amount of years ago than it does now. And like for me personally, like stand-up has helped, that outlet has helped me accept myself and accept those feelings. But like to anybody listening who maybe is like relating to what you're saying, where you're like, I struggle with that. I don't want that information to be passed along. I struggle with being vulnerable. These skills don't come overnight, the same way like a six-pack doesn't come overnight. The same way healing is not like this linear thing.
Yeah,
so
it's
just
true.
because the first 10 times you attempt to be vulnerable with somebody, it still feels weird or uncomfortable. It doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean it's impossible. It's a muscle like anything else. Like over time, you'll lean into your own feelings, or you'll get more comfortable on stage, or whatever it is.
So that leads it's a perfect lead into the next question, which is if someone, needs help, or they want to talk to somebody, or they want to do something, right? They call Serena mental health facility. What is the process? Like, just guide me through someone who's going to go all the way through, like, is there like, a 3-month plan, or how does it happen, or how does it work?
Well, basically, when the patient calls to the office, the patient is helped by the office manager who pick up the call, and we offer the sooner appointment that we have, depending on the availability of that patient.
What you were saying was that this is the only, you guys are the only facility in South Florida that has appointments within 24 hours, 48 hours.
We don't know about everybody else, but we know that there are very long wait times.
Yeah.
And that's why they are reaching out to us.
Okay.
And our priorities are patient.
Yeah. So then the patient calls, gets the appointment with you. What's like the next steps? What's the next process? How is it that do you guys like pair them with a specific doctor? I'm kind of interested in knowing, like, how do you analyze if this person's like actually has mental health issues?
We invite the patient to come to our office, and that patient is gonna get evaluated.
Okay.
And depending on that evaluation, it's a treatment that we can offer. We also offer psychotherapies as well.
Okay.
Not only pharmacological treatments. So let's say if we have a patient that definitely the condition is present, but it's more into the mild level, not moderate or severe, there's still help. And that patient, I refer that patient to the therapist. So for services like psychotherapies.
Got you. So let's say I'm a patient right now. We're in your office. What would you ask me? Like, what are a couple questions you would ask me to like identify, like,
Definitely,
hey.
if you call to our office, it's because you're looking for help.
Got you.
All right. So depending on that type, the help that you're looking for or the concerns that you may have, it's how it's very subjective. It's what you're telling me, and then we not only look for a diagnosis at the moment, but it's more like to provide you with the help.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you let the patient, the first meeting is you let the patient just express themselves.
Definitely.
Gotcha. You're just listening and listening and listening.
And definitely we need to create that rapport, as I mentioned before. Because let's say if we have sometimes we have patients that they don't feel well if the patient does not want to talk, how are you going to know that patient or what's going on with that patient?
True. What do you do in those cases that somebody doesn't want to talk or like
Rapport.
got you?
Like try to
Make them feel comfortable.
yeah.
It's funny because you see like the movies and stuff where like the person's sitting in the back, like, you know, and the psychologist is there just asking questions. It feels like so friendly and fun, you know, and stuff like that.
Oh,
But
my experience with that in movies or TV is The Sopranos, where Tony Soprano's with his therapist. And they were close for other reasons. But yeah. It's so, but that's another thing about, like, to your point, like, it's like mainstream media and movies and TV and everything can I think warp what the actual process of taking care of your mental health looks like. I feel like they can make it look dramatic. Like, I'm going to call a center and they're going to lock me up or they're going to throw me or what, like, but people think that, or people, you know, it's the same thing with domestic violence. It's the same thing with a lot of issues. They get spread awareness, or sometimes they do more damage by making people think it's going to be extreme or one way or something. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think for a long time, seeking help was, you were thought of as you were crazy. Like, you have problems. You're like, stay away from that guy. You know, he's a problem. You know?
I hate the term crazy. I have a person in my work and friend circles who is diagnosed bipolar, and he's super talented. He's a really gifted comedian, and he was very open about his disorder and his comedy. He's brilliant. He's like,
It's not a caballo, is it?
no. You know, he would be like, no, I love him. And he's essentially, like, without selling out obviously his personal details, but he's not in a great place right now.
Yeah.
And I think he stopped his medication, or he's not in a great place. He's having a manic episode, which I'm not the doctor, is common with bipolar disorder. And I really, like, had it out with some of my friends who, like, call him crazy. And they're like, wow, he's losing his mind. He's crazy. He's going through it. And I get, like, really upset. I'm like, he has a disorder. He's not crazy. Like, he needs certain care. Like, and it really upset me because I was like, it's that kind of language that drives people like that to worse circumstances or something.
They don't want to talk to nobody.
You know, or like, even, you know, women get called crazy all the time. Like, that word is so demeaning to women, especially in domestic violence situations. Usually the woman getting called crazy was just a victim of something, and now she's calling it out, so she's crazy. So that whole word of crazy, like, that, I don't know, I hate that word and the stigma associated.
Do you guys do like couple therapy as well, or family therapy, or just like one-on-ones?
Family therapy.
Family therapies and mostly individual therapies as well.
Individual? Mm-hmm. And what do you see like in the family therapies? I mean, I'm sure that's a very different dynamic than being one-on-one.
Yes.
I'm just gonna say, and then I will pass on to you. But we touched the subject of communication.
Yep.
As simple, all of us could improve. Everyone.
Wait, before you go, I'm going to ask the question, so this could be a teaser. What is the importance of communication between a family?
So we can understand each other. When we listen to each other, what we're saying is, I want to understand you better. We really have to be open, flexible, and to be attentive to the actual messages. We all, it happens to all of us, tend to jump in it. The minute that you start talking, usually the human being is already projecting what they want to be saying. So you are not allowing that communication to really take place. You are already jumping the gun. And as you start communicating something, you are, like in today's world, it's really a world out there that in our generations, previous generations, it's very hard to be able to understand, to even accept or to embrace. So you immediately jump in. And, you know, we really, as parents, even of, you know, an older generation, it doesn't matter what age, we all encounter issues in our lives. We have to be open and to embrace what is trying to be communicated. Because something may happen to you today, something happened today, to my family, doesn't matter the age. We all encounter issues in life, and there's no age for it.
True.
So to that point, earlier we talked about how you would communicate if to a parent if the parent is calling the clinic with a mental health concern for their child, right? What are your pointers for how to communicate to your parents or your elders where there's a generational gap and maybe you think there may be a need for care or for them to talk to somebody, but obviously there's an age gap between you and your parents? Like, what are tips for communicating upwards in your family, right?
Definitely, yes.
Yeah.
And definitely we rely a lot on the parents because there are cases that it's not the patient who call to the office, but the parents. Yes. And I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just want to mention, and I think this is very important, we see a lot of drug addictions as well. Wow. And psychosis due to drugs, related to drugs. And to the point that I have seen patients that they say, hey, I was smoking cannabis and there was a group of friends smoking and none of them suffer from any psychosis. But definitely, or most of the time, that patient may have had like a factor that predisposed him to a psychotic event.
You know that I've heard that so much before, and I refuse to believe it. I'm like, no, it's impossible. Like, weed doesn't do that to you, you know?
It's done it to me too. And I don't smoke weed for that reason. It makes me feel I don't like how I feel on it.
But you make a good point. And I went to a restaurant once when it was during the pandemic. And I'll never forget the way this guy said it to me. And he goes, brother, there's no, you know what the real pandemic is? It's not COVID. It's everyone doing cocaine in Miami. He goes, the employees, the workers,
it's a food
the staff,
group in Miami. Yeah.
So I was like, where did this come from? It's just like a random server telling me that we're talking about. So going to that, like, what are the top 3 drugs that you see people are addicted to or they're coming to you with issues with? What do you normally see?
See flaca, holies, cannabis as well.
What?
And the sad part is that you don't see, like, say no to drugs, not even in commercials, or if you're driving on the expressway, you won't see like one of those big.
Yeah, that was the DARE. We used to have the DARE campaign.
Yeah,
but
but there's no campaign at all. At all. Not even.
I also think
I never thought about that. That's true.
Miami residents feel a need to keep up with the certain lifestyle and pace and societal approval. And I think that's also what can lend itself to alcohol and drug abuse as well, because it starts social, but then it becomes a habit and a lifestyle, and you think you need it to do your job. Some comedians think they need it to feel funny. They need to get high. They need to have a drink. I'm the opposite. I go on stage completely sober because I don't want to risk that happening. But I know friends in hospitality and bartenders that are like, yeah, I do coke every night. Yeah. Why? Well, how else am I going to get through my shift? Yeah. And that's not okay. That's tough. Yeah. Tough. Like, and I'm not trying to.
It's a dark place.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to speak for their they're definitely not judging, but I'm like, that also can't be good on your body and your mental health if you're working that much. So, but I mean, I think a lot of people, Miami is a party city, and it's a very big city that's like, they lean on appearances here and vanity, and I think that can lend itself to these issues, I think.
I wouldn't even know where to get flaca. Like,
what is flaca?
I think it's like a synthetic, it's a synthetic drug, no? The synthetic drug. Molly's for sure. I mean, I went to Ultra, I've tried Molly before. You feel like shit the next day.
Yeah, no,
like,
thank you.
You just feel like
what just happened?
I don't want to do that ever again type of approach, you know?
I personally have no interest in it, but I know a lot of friends that experiment with psychedelic drugs or different things. Yeah. And like, to me, that gamble of I could take it and have the time of my life, or I could take it and then I'm stuck in a trip for 8 hours and I'm freaking out. Like, that to me is like, for me. Yeah. For me, I'm I'm good. I'll have a glass of wine.
The same thing happened to me with Adderalls. I used to take Adderalls during college, and I would feel really bad the next day. And I took a couple, and I just forget about it. Yeah. However, when you're on it, you feel like limitless. Like the information, you retain info, you read, you're this. But it takes so much out of you. You're like, that the next day you feel empty. You really feel empty. Yeah. And that could lead to a serious depression, immediately.
Alcohol is a depressant. Yeah. Like, I mean, alcohol is also too, like, it's so accessible and it's so social and, it's just a drink. And one becomes two, especially in entertainment and hospitality. And then you wonder why you went from being the life of the party to the next morning. Yeah. You're like, I feel worthless or I feel really sad. It's
It's a tough place to be when you're in those, and then you don't know how to get out, and it just becomes a vicious cycle. I have a friend of mine that got into Percocets. Like, why would you
That's
take Percocets?
scary.
And he lost everything.
Absolutely.
Daughter, house, kid, jet ski, buildings, apartments. He lost everything on Percocets. He was paying $2,000 a week just to get the pills.
Yeah. Yeah, it's scary. That's where that self-awareness comes in.
That is incredible. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy.
And horrible face. I have seen the horrible face of the fentanyl. The fentanyl as well.
Oh, that you find that in cocaine, right?
Or directly.
They're using the fentanyl, and they are mixing the fentanyl on the cannabis and smoke.
Oh, no.
way.
But it's like you fry.
What does fentanyl make you feel? It's just like a really crazy high, or?
And it's an anesthetic.
Yeah,
Actually, they use it for the horses.
I can't even take Benadryl.
Yeah, but they use fentanyl.
I take
like
Benadryl and I'm like...
It's like fentanyl. Fentanyl is a replacement for like a pain reliever, no? It's
Yeah.
like a pain reliever, yeah. They usually in hospitals. Yeah, they usually in hospitals. You know, it's yeah, it's crazy to me. I mean, yeah, again, one of those things I wouldn't even know where to get. You know, which I think is a good thing. But it's out there. You know, it's out there. So to close out, if somebody wants help, needs help, where can they call? What should they do? How, you know, give them advice on what's the best way to get mental health help in South Florida right now.
We have our telephone numbers where they can call. And our number is 786. Sorry, I don't have my glasses on.
Tranquilo. We'll put it in the caption. Don't worry.
840.
840-3454.
Okay.
Again, that's 786-840-3454. Gisela de los Santos is our clinical manager, and she's always available to help.
He's amazing.
So they're gonna call, ask for help, talk to Gisela,
Absolutely.
and they're gonna get an appointment in 48 hours.
24 to 48
24, 48 hours.
Depending on, but make sure they stay what they need,
Yeah.
their need is. I will make sure that we can accommodate them. We do have, we have self-paid as well, but we also have, you know, a variety. We have a lot of our mental health insurances, but we will always accommodate our patients.
Yeah.
We'll work
And then
with
they'll be
them.
speaking to Dr. Rivero, and they're gonna cry with him.
I did this morning.
So before we end, I have a question for Britney. Right?
Oh, boy. Yes, I'm single. I know everyone's wondering.
No, I want to know. These clips always go viral. I think our producer's wondering. Nah, he's married. What are your top 3 restaurants in the city go to? You need to take a break. You're with your family. Where are you gonna go eat? Where are you taking the family?
This is the toughest question yet on this podcast. Taking the family. I don't have kids, but I do have my 2 parents that I feel like I'm raising right now in my life. My top 3 Miami restaurants.
Miami restaurants, top 3.
Number 1, I always find myself at Finca.
Oh, that's a
In
good one. I
Kendall.
love it. Yeah. Shout out to Eileen.
Eileen's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm a regular there. I walk in and those handsome boys behind the bar have my martini ready, and they're overall. And okay, no, I love Finca. It's amazing. 2, where else do I love to go? I just discovered this place in Westchester with Thorn. It's
haven't
called.
been there.
It's really good. It's incredible cocktails, and it's attached to Crybaby ice cream.
Wow.
Which was voted like the best ice cream in Miami. And so whenever I'm PMSing or in my feels or it's a day off,
Okay.
I go there. It's always quiet and chill. I have a martini. I have an ice cream sandwich. No one gets mad at me for crying. No, I'm kidding. And 3, when I treat myself, if I treat myself, I like to go to Pastis in Wynwood if I'm having like a fancy meal. I didn't know I loved French cuisine, but a girl loves escargot. I didn't know I'd like snails, but
I like snails, yeah.
at Pastis, they're amazing. So I would say number 1 is Finca, number 2 is Thorn. Those are local to where I'm at. And then if I'm treating myself, yeah, like Pastis is
That's good. And you have any upcoming shows?
I'm on tour.
You're on tour,
I am on
okay.
tour. I am splitting my time between Miami and New York. Just moved back to New York. But I'm all across the country.
Oh, so you're not living here anymore?
Not really. Not as full time as I was before.
Gotcha.
But you can find me in West Kendall, where it all began.
Yeah.
Full circle.
Same here.
Where
I'm a
it
West
is.
Kendall boy.
And then it's not super to the public yet, but I will be headlining the Adrian Arsht Performing Arts Center.
Wow, let's go.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
Friday, November 23rd, 2 shows. I'm very excited. Their first time venturing out into comedy in that space, and I was very honored that they reached out to me to kick it off.
That's impressive.
Yeah,
That's
thank you.
impressive.
We're going to tape it. Hopefully it's going to turn into a special that we're going to release, but it'll be a nice Thanksgiving homecoming. It's like right around that time. So,
we'll be able to plug that in.
yes, get a ticket. You can get a ticket. I haven't officially announced it yet, so VIP exclusive.
Okay, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
You guys want to mention anything? Any last minute things? Or
I really want to thank Britney for representing us. Very proud of
She's a
all
good
the work that
representative.
you're doing.
I'm honored.
I would like to say thank you, Eddie,
My
and
pleasure.
all your staff. Before we close, I really would like to everyone behind the scene that usually people do not see, that they come over, and I would like definitely for all of them to be able to be part of when you do the video.
Yep,
Because I am grateful. I also want to give credit to Omar Fajardo,
100%.
my
The
son.
one that made it happen.
Yes. And to all of you for allowing us to be here and tell our story.
I'm gonna ask Omar how those family therapy sessions are after. Is your mom who she is, who she says she is, or is she like there echando leña, cutting everybody up?
She's incredibly humble.
Thank
She is.
And this is going to be a very unofficial way to sum you up, but I mean it in the biggest compliment.
Thank you.
This is like a bad bitch.
Yeah.
Like she, and even when you're in her presence, you feel, I don't know, I feel like regal in
You know
her
what?
presence.
Going
Like,
to that,
very-
I have a question for you because se me quedó en la cabeza ever since we had.
Which before I'm very proud of it.
Me too. Oh my gosh. I say this all the time. Whenever a woman gets called a bitch,
Yes.
I'm always like, that's a compliment. Yeah, that's a compliment.
I always said it's good that they talk good or bad, but that they talk about
They're
you.
talking about me. No press is bad press.
So you had told me when we did a tour of your facility, you had told me that you were a first responder.
Yes.
Many years ago.
Yes.
Do you have, I mean, it's always curious to me, but do you have any, what's the craziest thing or any moment that in your first responder career that changed you that you can, recall?
I really have to tell you, when I started Department of Health, my first 6 months were on the trenches, and I was in the, I was in Goose, but I learned my basics of what pain was really true in the labor camps.
Okay. Wow.
I am so proud and so happy of the work, and that I was able to be there hand in hand with people really who had pain. And I always lived a very sheltered life. And I always said, if my parents knows where I am and what I'm doing, they would have removed me. And that was really what gave me incredible basis. And for that, I'm grateful to God and all that I had done. Later on in 19, when Andrew, I was called by the Department of Health to respond to an incredible community, West Perrine, and all, the South,
Yep.
where I was the first roof that, and it was on a roof, everything was deteriorated. There was a roof there that we were able to just for shelter, and a van from the Department of Health came, and the first clinic to be able to bring people in and to get involved in that community, 8 hours after Andrea was detailed
Wow.
into that. I came back home 3 months later, and I was with the airborne. I was with, incredible people. They used to refer to me as commander, but God, did we see people who, would just drop, in the streets. They were dehydrated, people who really lost everything. So the experience that I had was amazing, and that's really is what made me today who I am. One of the things that I want to tell you is that after that, I had my own place representing the Department of Health and also the refugee program. I represented refugee health for the entire state of Florida.
Wow.
I had my seat in the emergency operation centers, and for that I'm very proud.
But you said you were in labor camps?
We did. That's how I
But that was
started.
here, labor camp in South
The
Florida?
labor camps in the Homestead
Gotcha.
and all those areas.
Gotcha. And during Hurricane Andrew, you guys were boots on the grounds, first out there.
Absolutely. I had a chopper ride in my backyard, and And that was with great community members.
I think I was like 5 years old when that happened, but I remember putting tape in my
Yes.
apartment windows in Hialeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's incredible. It's incredible.
Right.
Yeah,
That was a community that was totally wiped out.
Yeah.
And we actually treated burns. We treated people with dehydrations, just with flashlights.
Yeah.
Wow.
Have you seen people pass away like in front of you trying to treat them and stuff like that? Is that right?
Because that's really part of what happens. What happens, but again, to those that you're able to help, that really compensates everything else that happens. Absolutely, and thankful that you were there to help him when that you could.
Do you ever see people come back like years later and tell you?
Absolutely, there is nothing that really brings your heart with joy that community comes and bring you the flower in their garden, the fruits that now they are able to, just those little things are the ones that make a difference. Just coming back and bring your family, and then you see them later in life. Look what you did. Look what I'm doing. That is really what it's all about.
That's true. Before we go, I have one last question. You guys get letters from your patients after they finish treatment. Tell me a little bit about how that makes you feel personally.
I'm going to defer that to the man who makes that possible.
Priceless.
Well,
That's what you feel the passion of the specialty right there. Helping people every day.
do you feel like you accomplished your mission? Like,
I'm still doing it.
yeah. But with that particular person, you're like, okay, I feel like I did a good job here.
Definitely.
Yeah. Out of like 10 people, more or less, what's the percent of people that you feel like you actually helped? Like, wow, they went on and did something nice,
Everyone gets help, and I do my best trying to help everyone. And sometimes it's harder for those people depending on the condition and the severity of the condition. But I would say maybe 7 to 8.
Wow, that's good. That's a high percent of help.
Yeah.
That's impressive. Well, if you guys need help, like many of us do, call Serena Mental Health. Okay, we're going to leave the information in the bio. All right, so if someone's looking for help and they're going to call Serena Mental Health Facility for help, what are the main reasons that you guys, well, let me rephrase that. If someone is looking for mental health services, what are the main reasons someone should call you for if they're feeling somewhat way?
Well, they call us for a variety of conditions, including definitely depressions, anxiety. We have the PTSD as well, social anxiety. That's very an increase in social anxiety as well. Panic attacks to the point that the patients, they need to go to the ER and get checked out there. Somatizations due to anxieties as well. We have a lot of PTSD as well. And on top of that, we have the schizophrenias, bipolars, borderline personality disorders, schizoaffective disorders. So we treat all these mental health conditions.
I'm sure in addition to that too, if you just have a general curiosity about your mental health, or you just want to be preventative or take care or inquire or learn more about things that you're feeling as well too, it's a perfect resource for that.
We get calls for insomnias, depressions, grievings as well.
Absolutely.
And anxiety, definitely, social anxiety, panic attacks. That's one of the main conditions that we see each day. And even to the point that immigrations, when someone emigrates from their countries, that grieving, family stay back in their country. So it's
Separation anxiety.
Do you ever recommend people to get a pet, an animal, a dog, anything like that? Does that ever help people out or no?
Yes, especially kids and broken families.
yeah.
Absolutely.
That's interesting. Yeah, I had a lady that I talked to the other day. She was an immigrant. That's when you mentioned that she was here for 4 months, and she told me she went and got a dog. And that helped her dramatically.
I rescued a cat in October. and she's brought my life so much like extra joy I didn't even know I needed, and like she is a stress relief, and like and I just did it out of like helping a friend, and I was like, I'll take her in, why not? And it's like I feel my mental health is like 100 times better.
You know what's crazy? We had a couple, like last week we had the animal services people here, and they were talking about all the dogs.
Absolutely.
I think that's something that we can do, like cross marketing with you guys.
Absolutely.
The adoption thing.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also just like, I mean, I feel like you would probably say there's no two solutions for anybody. So maybe for some people it's a pet, other people it's a hobby, other people it's a social activity, or, you know, a church
Every
group.
case is
You know,
different.
That's a good point.
yeah.
Every case is different. And one of the issues that people do not seek help is when you have a relative that is very close to you and they all of a sudden came with the onset of a disease, and they do take a long time, and you're dealing with that, you know. Something very, an example is the Alzheimer's disease. It's very hard to actually being able to cope with the fact that you have someone in front of you, you have lived with them, and you see that decline. And that caregiver, or that person that is going through that process, do need help. And it is okay to reach out, because you need support in order to be able to support the other person, and it really penetrates the entire family. It does affect everyone involved, and that's just, you know, a case like, you know, that it is okay to seek
So
help.
Alzheimer's and dementia is tough because it's like watching somebody get old,
Yes,
lose control of their mind, and decline and be sick like all at once. It's like watching somebody it's like watching them lose themselves on like multiple. My grandmother had Alzheimer's. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
one of the issues is that the age is people are younger. You know, it's really impressive. It's really scary. The Alzheimer and the dementia is really deteriorating and much earlier. And
And on the first stages of dementia, we usually see that patient, since they are aware of what's going on with them, it's frustration. You see that frustration of the depression phase, typically on the patients who has a diagnosis of dementia, since it is a progressive disease. So they are aware, they know that they are deteriorating, and it's very...
Oh, I told my family, if anything ever happens to me, just pull the plug.
Oh,
Like,
no.
I don't want to live like that, man. Like, that's tough. That's tough, you know. All right, guys. A real pleasure having
Thank
you here.
you.
It was a real pleasure. Looking forward to seeing you guys again.
Thank you.
thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, everybody behind the scene. Appreciate that. Thank you.